the Inner Game podcast. Brought to you by the Science of Excellence. Presented by Rob Hume, the leading elite athlete mental performance coach. Unleash your power.
Boom, let's go. So let's welcome onto the Inner Game podcast, Shara, Proctor. Really excited to have one of Great Britain's and Anguilla's superstar athletes. She's somebody who I've seen many times on TV competing for Great Britain in the Olympics, World Championships, European Championships and Commonwealth Games. So really honoured to have Shara on the show today, and really do appreciate you coming on and giving up your time.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Brilliant. So, as I was saying, I've seen you many times on TV representing Great Britain over the years, and seeing you get that silver medal in the World Championships back in, was it 2015, was it, I think? On that evening, you set a national record for Great Britain, just over 7 meters and 7 centimeters. Was it? Am I correct on that one?
7.
Yeah. So you've had a career so far littered with, amazing successes: bronze medals in World Indoor Championships, a bronze medal in the Commonwealth Games, bronze medal in the European Championships, and here we are now. I'm sure you're not finished in this sport yet, and you've got a mark. You've got a mark to leave on this sport, and I'm sure you've still got plenty of meters and centimeters left in those legs to make an even bigger dent in that national record.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot more to go, and so I'm working on it.
Awesome. So, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start back at the beginning. What was it that first drew you to athletics? How did your journey in this sport begin for you?
It began way back in Anguilla. I was going to primary school, Stony Ground Primary School back then, and I was a huge tomboy, and so I was always running around with the boys, playing football with the boys, playing cricket with the boys, and I was beating them. So I guess Teacher Collins saw some talent, because he was the track coach back then. And so he was in charge of Stony Ground Primary School track practices. And so he invited me out. And it started from there, to be honest. I went to practice, and I competed at the inter-school competitions, and then went on to high school. But in high school, I started competing regionally and even internationally at World Youth Championships.
Right.
And the ball started rolling from there.
Yeah. And when you first got into athletics, was it the long jump that was your kind of first event that you went to, or did you kind of start in the sprints and then kind of transition over to the jumping, or was it straight into jumping like Superwoman through the air?
No, I was doing everything. I was doing the 100, I was doing the 200, and never touched the 400. Sorry about that, but I was doing javelin, I was doing cricket ball throw, I was doing discus, I was doing everything. I was a true athlete at that time. I was just having fun with it. And so when I traveled to the Carifta Games, I would do the javelin competition. Another funny story about that. And then eventually I started not winning anymore. And so that discouraged me a little bit. And so I decided to stick to, and also I was a bit lazy. I'll admit I was lazy. So I wanted to train for the sprints. And so that's when I started specializing in the long jump.
Yeah. And what was that kind of transition then to going, really deep into focusing on the long jump? Were you still having, were there still times where you're still involved with the sprints and a bit of long jump? At what point did you go, no, I'm going all in on long jump now? This is the sport where I can really excel and make my mark in.
Once I got to high school, I was still doing the sprints and inter-school competitions to give my house points and my school points. But when it came to competing regionally and internationally, I stuck to the long jump. That was my main event. So once I got to high school, that's when I started to specialize and just hone in on my talent in the long jump.
Yeah, cool. So I'm always curious as to know who athletes' idols are and heroes are. And a lot of the work that I do with helping athletes develop in themselves is actually harness the habits, the states, the physiology of athletes who they look up to, in particular their sports, the sport that they compete in. And I'm curious as to who were the athletes who you were looking up to. Was it someone particular in jumping or sprinting, or maybe even outside of athletics altogether?
In my early days, I would have to say Marion Jones.
Yeah.
She was a huge inspiration for me as a young kid, I would say. Yeah. She inspired me to do sports, but it wasn't necessarily track and field. Really? I wanted to be an acrobat.
Really?
I wanted to be an acrobat when I was younger, and that dream slowly died. Come on. And so after her scandal, my inspiration changed. It became the Williams sisters, because I was also playing tennis at the time.
Nice.
And so I actually started tennis before I started track and football.
Right.
And so they were huge inspirations for me. Seeing these young Black girls coming up and winning, with the beat, just the culture, everything. And so that was a huge inspiration. It was like, okay, you can do it if they can do it. And so, I carried that through tennis and eventually track and field.
And so, obviously, in terms of Venus and Serena Williams being your role models, in terms of adopting their sporting technique, that's obviously not possible. But I'm wondering if obviously, their mental traits, their habits, the way that they kind of conducted themselves as female athletes. So, were there any particular kind of traits or characteristics of those two who you really looked up to and tried to kind of absorb into yourself, if you like?
It was just the innocence to me, because at the time I was very young. I think, it was 1995 when I first saw them. It was, we just got hit by a hurricane in Anguilla, Hurricane Lewis. So we barely had electricity throughout the island, and we didn't have hot water and stuff like that. So we were all in my grandmother's house, and my aunt is a huge tennis fan. Yeah. And so she took me under her wing in terms of the tennis. So she sat me down and we were just watching, and we saw these young, innocent sisters. And I had a sister. I still have a sister. She's not.
You've not got rid of her then, no.
No, I have a sister and a younger sister. And so I look at that, and they were relatable, and they still are relatable.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what caught my eye at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge tennis fan myself. I used to play quite a bit of tennis, and I used to coach tennis as well. And, I remember when they first broke onto the scene with their coloured braids in the hair and coming on at Wimbledon, and, how they both, progressed as athletes, and obviously, women themselves is pretty damn incredible, really, isn't it? And
yes,
like what
oh, they came in and dominated the whole sport.
Yeah,
Everything. The Williams sisters, and then their dad was their coach. And at the time, my mother was heavily involved in, nurturing my career also. So, it was just, the whole situation was just very relatable to me.
Yeah. So just to touch on that then, so you mentioned your mum there. So was she involved in what way was she involved in kind of nurturing your athletics talent?
She was very, very involved. And when I say very involved, I mean, I won't be mean, but she was very involved because we lived together, and she was also coaching me. So, and it was her passion to be a coach. So sometimes it became unbearable because sometimes I just want to go home and just be, but she wanted to talk about track. And so it became annoying after a while, but I appreciated it because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here, honestly. She took me under her wing. She went to get her coaching certification. She studied in college just so she can, guide me in the right direction, and she was there every step of the way. She went on trips. She traveled with me. She also trained other athletes, but because it was my mother, it just felt special to me because I think other coaches on the island would have paid such close attention to me and make sure I made it like she did, because she has that special bond, I'm her daughter. I grew inside of her for 9 months, so that bond will never die. And I'm sure as a mother, you want to see your daughter succeed, And at the time, during that time, I was heavily involved in football. I was a part of the national team. So I enjoyed it for the social aspects. And so, and I was also playing tennis. She sat me down and she gave me the option. Well, it was kind of an ultimatum. She said, listen, you have opportunities in track and field, because at the time I was getting scholarships to very prominent NCAA schools.
Right.
And said, listen, you have this opportunity, right? At the time, I didn't care about going to college. I was young. I just wanted to, be with my friends and hang out. I wasn't focused on the future, but she was, that's why what she's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so I said, listen, you have these opportunities to go to college, free scholarship, free academics, and you get to compete in track and field.
Is this over in America? The college system in America?
Yeah. Yes. And I was playing football at the time, and I wasn't getting nowhere. But team sports is very hard to elevate because, you have to really stand out to be noticed by college scouts. And so she said, you're going to school. I didn't have a choice, my mother. And so, I chose track at that time, and I got serious about it. Well, serious within reason, serious enough to go off to college and, pursue that at the time.
Yeah, so I can certainly see how, those parallels between your life there and the Williams sisters' life, with, your mum kind of being your guardian angel, and, their dad being theirs. And I remember, 20 odd years ago, reading about how Richard Williams had kind of set out and laid this plan, about his future daughters who hadn't even been born yet. And in my mind, there's always a part of me that I was thinking, how real actually was that story? Did he really actually, before their birth, kind of map out these two world championship tennis players? And what pleased me so much is when the film came out with Will Smith as the dad, and it obviously touched on that, that he actually had gone into that level of detail as to how he was going to try and elevate his family and his children, and kind of guide them to want more from themselves than their surrounding areas. And I've always found that story of the dad, the two sisters especially, and how, it just goes to show, for me personally anyway, that talent isn't necessarily just born and given to you. You have to apply time and energy at it, and without that mentorship, so many athletes go off the beat, off the path. And when I've looked into many of the world's great athletes, many times they've had a mentor there, a very good mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's a parent, who was kind of guided them from quite a young age. Tiger Woods, another one. His dad was guiding him into golf from the age of 3, 4, 5 years of age. Had a club in his hand. Many that there's the sport is littered with these stories of having these mentors, which are there to help them develop physically, but also mentally and spiritually as well, I think, and so that they don't get sidetracked by the rest of life when they know they've got these opportunities.
I agree.
And I think like you were saying then, how at times it seemed difficult with your mum trying to make sure that you stay focused. You've got these opportunities, and I'd imagine that there's part of you when you're a much younger child thinking, why is she being so hard on me, sort of thing. Was there any of that going on?
I just wanted to watch TV, play video games, be with my friends, but she wanted to train, so
I've worked with many athletes really where, a good percentage of athletes where they get torn between those two worlds of really, they've got this ability, they've got this potential, they've started to make their way down that road to excellence in their sport, but at the same time they're a young girl or boy in relative terms, and they want to have fun, they want to experience life. But in order to do the things that you have done, that you can't live the same life as your friends, can you?
No, not if I want to achieve certain goals. I can't.
No.
And I know that now. I mean, I think that's the downfall of a lot of young athletes or young inspired people. They don't necessarily have that person, that parent, that mentor, that family member, that somebody in their corner who just reels them back anytime they go off track and tell them, listen, this is the bigger picture. You have to look towards the bigger picture and do the things, put in the work now in order to reach these goals that you have. You can't just dream, because a dream without the work is just a dream, So that's I think that played a huge role in my success now as an adult. And the Williams sisters, and that's why I related to them so much.
I love what you said there about a dream without the application, the work, as you said, is just that. It's just a dream, and some people don't have a dream at all, do they? I work with a lot of young children kind of outside the sport setting as well, and many people, whether the children or adults, they struggle to dream. They struggle to take their mind out of their body and imagine what if, what else could I do with my life? What else could I become? And it has to start with the dream, doesn't it? You've got to have the dream, but then you've got to match it with the energy towards it, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's what would you say is your most defining moment in sport or your career so far? And this obviously you've won, big medals and big competitions. You broke the national record for Great Britain, and I'm wondering if your most defining moment is actually one of those, or is it something else that happened perhaps before all of that, which kind of, one of those light bulb moments where something happened somewhere and something changed that kind of altered the course and direction of you and your sports career?
Honestly, it's a moment where I didn't even win a medal, but it opened my eyes to what I am capable of, or what I was capable of. Because at the time I was in college, and I wasn't doing anything special in the long jump pit.
Yeah.
I probably had just placed like 5th in the long jump at the NCAA championships. I was competing for Angola at the time, and I went to the World Championships in 2009 in Berlin, which is one of my favorite tracks ever.
It's got the blue track, isn't it?
Yeah, it's special to me. And so I didn't have much training under my belt, to be honest. And I went to that championship, and like I was an underdog. I wouldn't even call myself an underdog. Like no one had me on their radar. Nobody. I was a nobody. And so I was just going there to have fun, And I qualified for the final on my 3rd jump. Oh. And I was like, wow, what is and then in the final, I jumped national record for Angola at the time, and I jumped 671.
6 meters 71.
Yes, in the final. And I made it to the last 3 jumps because, in the final, you have 3 jumps, and then top 8 go to the last 3 jumps. And so I made it to the last 3 jumps. And I was like, wait, what is this? And so I ended up placing 6th in the final. Among these people I looked up to. Don't ask me to call names because I don't remember, but I looked up to them. And I was competing with them. Like little old me, we didn't have a kid sponsor. I was in college. I was just living a regular life. And here's me placing 6th at the World Championships, like one of the biggest championships in the sport. And so that opened my eyes so much because I was like, okay, if you did not put in the work necessary to be here, once you do put in the work, you will reach greater heights. And that's when I kind of got serious and thought, okay, I want to, because at that time I wasn't thinking of becoming a professional athlete. That was not in my thoughts. I just wanted to get my degree and leave. I don't know what I would have done if I had chosen that path, but I'm glad I didn't choose that path. And I just went back to school. I got more serious and just, focused on becoming a professional athlete. So that was a defining moment for me because I saw what I was capable of if I did apply myself. And
I love those moments in life where, like almost like a sliding door moment, that doesn't happen there. And something very different occurs in life, doesn't it? And but these moments do happen, and they can happen for all of us in different ways. Where there's a moment which kind of shifts our reality and opens up and broadens our eyes and horizons as to I'm capable of more, and whether that's in business, whether it's in life, whether it's as a parent, just a man or woman, whatever that is. People have these moments where their life changes in an instant, and it's a great job you had that, so that you can come on and represent certainly my home country, Great Britain, and win us some medals.
Right.
Because when you came onto the scene for Great Britain, there was also, just underneath you, there was, a good crop of long jumpers coming up as well. There's quite a few of you, wasn't there, that were all, a relatively similar sort of level, like pushing each other, it seemed. Or that's how I remember it. Correct me if I am wrong.
I believe in the first year or two, there, I don't remember, honestly,
Really?
but I don't remember. I remember Lorraine, I remember Jasmine, I remember coming up in around 2012, 2013 time.
Yeah.
But 2011, I don't remember many people.
Yeah.
Because there was one or two others who were above me. But I think they were on their way out, because by the time 2012 came around, the younger ones started coming through.
Yeah, that's the time period that I am referring to, around there. Yeah, 2012, 14, 16. I vaguely remember there being kind of three of you at times.
Yeah.
In the hunt for to getting in the majors, and at least being there for a Worlds, for example.
That's true.
So, one of with the background that I have in psychology and mental health and mental performance, a question which I'm always intrigued about with the athletes who I get onto the show is what if you could put a percentage on what you feel is the key factor in determining elite, excellent performance in terms of mental and physical, where would you put that percentage? How much of being an elite athlete is physical, and how much of it is mental, in your opinion?
Interesting. That's a tough one, because I think they're equally important. I would say 50-50.
Yeah.
Because they're equally as important as the other, because you have to put in the work. You have to train hard. You have to live that lifestyle. You have to have a good sleep pattern. You have to eat well. And you have to competing involves the physical. That's all competing. That's not all it is, but that's all you see. You have to apply yourself in competition. So you have to be ready to perform at a certain level, When it comes to mental, that's equally as important, because once you apply yourself, you have to believe, you have to be mentally ready. You you can't have any doubts. You have to, any negative thoughts. You can't be clouded during competition. All of that, and that's important during training also, because you have to train your mind to think and be a certain way in order for it to work during a competition. So I think they're both equally important. I would say 50.
Excellent, thank you. How much time do you give to the mental side of your sport? Is it something that you pay attention to, either with your coach or with the club or setup that you're training at, or is there even some things that you do yourself on your own, away from the coaching sessions? How much time do you actually spend on working on the mental side of your performance?
Honestly, in my early years, I didn't spend any time. I'll be honest. I was just coming to training and leaving, and that was it. I switched off. But it was easy back then. But as I got older and more experienced, and certain events occurred and certain environments I was in, it forced me to pay a closer attention to my mental health.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I got a psychologist, and so that helped me to deal with certain things and cope with certain things. And so I definitely spent a lot more time. I can't be specific and pinpoint how many hours I was spending, but I definitely spent a lot more time managing my mental health outside of the track. Yeah.
No, that's great because I ask those same two questions to everybody who comes on, and I get different figures in terms of what they think is mental and physical. And often then when I ask them, what they've given their, opinion on how much is mental. And then I ask, how much time are you giving to the mental? What is your coaching setup, or what are you doing yourself? Or if you're on one of the GB, performance, pathways, or if you're a football academy, what are they doing with you? And often it isn't a huge amount. And, even in your case, if it's 50-50, then there has to be some time given to it, doesn't there, in my opinion? Because, if we was to break down all the different facets of what is needed to become an elite athlete, you would look at sleep, you would look at obviously the physical side of it, the speed work, the strength work, the core stability, the flexibility. Then you've got the technical side of your sport. And then if you're a team-based athlete, you've got the tactical side of it. And then you've got nutrition, and then you've got the psychology. And so, for example, even nutrition, if we was to break down how important that was in the overall, paradigm of an elite athlete, let's just say somebody thought it had a 5% swing on their performance. They would be giving time to taking care of their nutrition, wouldn't they? They would prep their meals. There would be certain foods they would eat. There'd be certain foods they wouldn't. They'd be making sure they are, keeping on top of hydration, the vitamins and minerals and supplements. But then if they weren't to do that, it would have an impact on the performance. And if athletes aren't doing that with their mental side of it, their psychology, then I personally believe if they're not doing that, they're really missing out on and their most valuable asset, which is the brain, because the brain and the body are interconnected. You simply cannot have one without the other. They're in a constant biosis, feeding back to each other. The brain talking to the body, body talking to the brain. And I liked how you said how your mind needs to be clear and free from the clouds and free from that negative self-talk, because in situations that you've been in, when I don't like the word pressure, but let's just use it, when the pressure is on, in the World Championships and Olympics, if confidence is an issue for that athlete, when that pressure comes on, that voice, that microphone inside the head will turn on. And if they can't turn it off, then they're going up to do their thing in whichever event it is. And there's this nagging voice kind of holding them back. And I think, it's really great that it seems that you've given the time to get in that psychology, that mental performance work.
Yeah. Like it comes with experience also, because I remember in 2012, the home Olympic Games is one of the most exciting times of my life. I made it to the Olympic Games, and it was at home. So I was very excited. I qualified for the final, and I didn't know what anything mental health was. I wasn't, not that I didn't know, but I wasn't too aware of it. And so I remember walking out onto the track and being announced as, the British long jumper. And I just felt like the stadium was swallowing me. And my heart was racing, and I just felt like the runway was uphill, and I wasn't tired. I now know that it was anxiety that I was feeling, and I didn't know what anxiety was at the time. I didn't know anything about that. And once I started like learning about psychology and mental health and all that sort of stuff, I realized that I was having anxiety in the moment. I mean, granted, it was the worst moment to have anxiety. It was the worst time. But I mean, I'm human. It happens. And I was not experienced enough to know how to handle it in that moment and know how to, do breathing exercise. I don't know, whatever I could have done at that time. I had no idea. So I just was out there, just like wide-eyed and like a deer in headlights. And I just pushed through, but I came away very disappointed because what happened to you, Shara? You were so ready. And so I have suffered from that. A couple of times throughout my career during major competitions because I didn't know how to cope with it. I didn't know techniques to handle it in the moment. And throughout my career, my life, I've learned that, and it became easier to deal with,
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm always listening to the words that people use because in the industry that I work in, words are power. They have the power to make or break someone or yourself. And you were saying there how you felt like the crowd was swallowing you, and that it felt like you was running uphill on the track. And one of the things that I do with the athletes that I work with, I take them back into the state that they were in different moments. So you will be able to remember one of your best ever performances. And if you were to step back into that performance and see it as you were back then and hear it as you were in that moment and feel how you was feeling when you perform one of the best you've ever felt, and then compare it to the neurological state you was in, which you was describing there at the London Olympics, literally the internal neurological kind of state that the person in those two moments are completely different. And when you're there in the moment, you've got really no idea what that is. But when you can be guided and taken back to those moments and then evaluate the difference, then you can start to change them. And this is what I do with a lot of the athletes who I work with. I teach them how to change that internal representation of how they are experiencing that moment in that time. And it's no wonder that you kind of said there that you left the London Olympics feeling like you didn't perform to your best, because if you get into an anxious state, ultimately when you break down anxiety is fear. And the metaphor that I like to give to athletes is that as soon as fear sets in, anxiety, doubt, or nerves, whatever you want to call it, it's like getting in a car and having the handbrake on partially and the foot on the accelerator, because part of the mind is like, yeah, let's go. I want to go. I'm going to deliver for myself, my country, my family. I want to go and jump the best I've ever jumped. But then if anxiety is set in, there's a subconscious part saying, get the hell out of there. I can't handle this. So no athlete can ever perform to their best in that moment. And leading on from this, then I'm curious to know, can you remember your best ever performance? And that may be your world record jump, or it may not be. When you think of your best ever jump, where you feel like you hit that flow state, where were you when you performed like this?
It was in Beijing at the World Championships in 2015. That was the best. I compete my best when I black out. Like, I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I remember getting on a runway, getting ready, hearing my getting the clap started. And once I start running, I don't remember a thing until I get out of the pit. And so that was one of those moments. When I saw 707 on the board, yeah.
It's bringing you back there. It's giving you the chills, isn't it?
Yeah. So, that was to this day that was my best performance, I think.
Awesome. And as you say, I spend a lot of time with athletes, teaching them how to consistently get into the flow state, and part of being in the flow state is you described it there as blacking out. But ultimately, what's happening there is that you've turned off the conscious mind, the analytical mind, the part of that mind that's looking for danger, and that danger could be nothing, or it could be imagined danger, it could be anxiety, it could be imagining, what if I don't get the medal that I need to get? What if I underperform? What if I'm not jumping to the level that I was in training? As soon as somebody gets into those thoughts, it will trigger the freeze, fight, or flight. And when the conscious mind is turned off, it allows that sweet spot that like you was describing there, like where I could even tell watching you, like you was getting the shingles, the tingles in your spine and body, because you was clearly in the flow state there. And so many athletes talk about how the flow state is like having an outer body experience. You go to a place where you certainly don't get to in your normal waking state, where you're not thinking, where you're just letting all of that work that you've done, all of that training that you've done, all of those previous competitions, that has been stored, in the back in the cerebellum. That's stored there. Those techniques, all that training, that nobody can take that away.
Yeah.
Other than doubt and fear. That's the thing. And when that isn't there, that's when you jump like you did that day.
Yeah.
And have you had other similar events and moments where maybe you haven't got quite as far as that, but do you feel like you've been able to hit that state of mind on other occasions as well? Yeah,
many times during my career. Right before that, I had the London Diamond League, the London Grand Prix. I have broken the national record at that time, and I had just come off a major surgery, and so I just wanted to prove something to myself that I can come back.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I think I just let everything go, and I just went for it. And I did black out at that time, and I just let it go, and I jumped 698, and I got out of the pit and saw what I jumped, and so that was another defining moment for me. And then throughout my career, like at competitions, different competitions, I was able to just let go and black out and jump far.
Nice. Have you ever had a period in your career where either your mental health outside of the sport, or when you were competing, you had a period perhaps where you were struggling mentally in some way? Has there ever been a time where you was faced with those types of challenges?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would definitely say the last couple of years, because the pandemic added to it, and then my health added to it also. Because with my hypothyroidism, it's like a chemical imbalance, and so it causes severe anxiety. Like I have tremors, and my emotions go up and down, and so it's very difficult to maneuver, especially when you want to turn up to training with a clear mind. And it's nothing specific that causes that emotional roller coaster. It just is. And so, it's difficult because anything could trigger a breakdown. And let's say I do a drill wrong. I'm like, oh my God, I get so hard on myself. Why am I not doing this right? And blah, blah, blah. I remember one time at practice, I just broke down because I was just feeling so emotional for no reason. But it was just emotional. And so that's something that has been bothering me for the last couple of years. I only got diagnosed last year. So, but I was feeling the effects of it before, and now I know what it was, you know?
Yeah, my mum, she struggled most of her life with hypothyroid issues, and it certainly did affect her, and it must be a challenge for you.
It is, and then it's like weight varies every week, and depending on the medication. So yeah, it's been a struggle.
Yeah, and I guess is there also times where can it get confusing as to what is when you're not quite feeling how you want to feel when you go and train, for example, where is this the thyroid thing, or is this just me kind of having a moment sort of like, am I just feeling a bit flat anyway? Do you kind of get caught there where you're thinking what is it, am I just a bit tired because I haven't slept well, or does that happen at all?
Yeah that alone is a mental battle, trying to decipher whether it's the mental condition or it's just you, because sometimes it is me, because I'm naturally an overthinker, so I go on and on in my brain about that, and I'm very introverted, so it's not like I'm talking to people, I'm talking to myself.
yeah
So it's just a lot, like mentally it's very emotional sometimes. And that's why therapy helps, because it helps you to cope with those things and make it easier for me to just go on a track, because track is a getaway for me mentally. When I get on a track, I don't think about anything. And it's so refreshing, because once you get on a track, it's like therapy alone. That alone feels like therapy. And I don't know how it is for other people. That's how it's always been for me. I'm excited to go to the track because it's like I can breathe now. I don't have to think. I just have to run, jump, throw, whatever, lift, and by being around the people I'm around.
So I'm curious to know, when that self-talk takes over, is it not there when you're training? Is it kind of after, when you're finished and you've gone home? Is that when it can get the worst for you, or can it pop up during your training as well?
It pops up during my training, especially when it's one of those days where my emotions are just hyper, and it does happen, but most times no. Most times it happens when I'm just at home doing nothing. If I'm not doing anything, I try to stay occupied in terms of watching Netflix. I don't know, anything.
Yeah.
cooking. I try to listen to podcasts. I try to stay occupied, but I also try to find a balance so I can have some stillness and so I can learn how to quiet those thoughts. So yeah, that's what I do.
Have you ever considered hypnosis at all to help with that? Have you ever looked into that kind of realm of psychology at all? Is that something that
I never have, but I'm open to it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely open to it. I'm open to trying new things to help,
Yeah. I find that it helps a lot of the athletes I work with, really kind of just calm the mind, because what I call that self-talk, I call it either the world's worst commentator or would you rather be your own best cheerleader? And a lot of the work that I do with athletes is trying to flip around that process in the mind of, don't think about in terms of what you're saying to yourself and what you're visualizing. Don't think and see what you don't want to happen. Tune your mind in to what you want to happen. What do you want to see? What do I want to see on this next drill, whatever it may be. And often some athletes can spend too much time thinking about how the jump went wrong and what they didn't do right and how they didn't get their leg up here or they didn't quite swing the racket through there, instead of really funneling the mind into, right, this is what I want to happen. And this next drill, this next activity, this next training session, I'm going to go and I'm going to look like this. I'm going to perform like this. I'm going to move my body like this. And just being able to kind of take the mind away from focusing on the negative, essentially, because that self-talk, there's only two things that drives our neurophysiological state, and it's the pictures that we make inside our head and the internal self-talk that we hear. And as somebody thinks a thought more, it will generate a feeling more. You could think of a thought and say it again and again and again. If somebody was to say it enough, you could bring on anxiety and doubt and fear in that moment. And just like if somebody spends time visualizing, go and giving a talk in front of a group of people, if in the days leading up to go and giving a presentation, if they keep seeing themselves getting up there and imagining people laughing at them and they're making a mistake, then those pictures combined with what they're saying is literally generating the anxiety. And when you get control over both of those two things, the anxiety will dissolve away. And sometimes, some of the clients I work with have just kind of fallen into patterns that they've been doing for that long, that's been their go-to thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Just going back to throughout your career, then, do you feel that you've been able to consistently perform to the level that you believe that you can?
No, definitely not. I've had, I will call it, I've been consistent throughout the years, very consistent, especially through the last decade, between 2010 and 2020. I've been very consistent at a high level.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think I've performed as well as I should have in certain competitions. Injuries, niggles, sometimes you just don't feel like yourself. Sometimes you just can't find your rhythm. Sometimes you're just having a hard time mentally. It's all sorts of factors that came into play as to why I didn't perform as well as I should have, but I think I'm not perfect. I'm a human being, so the body. I don't think personally I'm a clean athlete, and so I know that it's difficult to train and perform at such a high level so consistently. I mean, like I said, the body breaks down sometimes. Yeah. The mind breaks down sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
So, I mean, yeah, it's normal. I mean, I can't sit here and say I'm proud of that. I have been very disappointed throughout my career, but I wouldn't change it because those tough moments gave me that fire to just come back and perform well, and just having to prove yourself again. Something about that feeling just makes you go harder. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, I mean, 1 year I lost my funding, and that alone was motivation, because I mean, it's hard not to feel like you're not good enough, you know? Even though you know you are good enough, you just had a bad year and circumstances didn't allow you to perform the way you wanted to. But I mean, I can't say I liked going through those moments, but at the same time, they helped me. I don't think a career like this is, I don't think it makes sense if you don't have those disappointments, because you have to rise from somewhere, you know? You have to go through those dark moments to really appreciate those accomplishments when you do get those accomplishments.
100%, you know.
Yeah.
And that whether that's in sport or whether that's in life, if we and some people try, you know, if we were to spend our lives wrapped up in a bubble, you know, where everything is safe, we don't take any risks, we don't take on challenge, you can do that, you know, for a period of time, but in the end, life is going to hit you right between the eyeballs, and it's going to test you in some way, isn't it? It's something is going to happen. You can't, you know, I believe that, you know, we do have a degree of control over our destiny and over our lives. Yeah. But there is a whatever percentage that is, I don't know. There's a percentage which you can't control. You can't control everything. All you can do is control the controllables. You can control how you respond in the moments. And as you say, that's where the growth occurs, isn't it? That when that fire can turn on, when you look back and use a moment to elevate you. And those moments where, as you say, where, you know, you perhaps, I think you mentioned that you lost your funding, or you didn't get the fund. Was that from Team GB Athletics? Was it in that moment there? You know, you had a decision to make, didn't you? You could either believe those people who made that decision, and that decision was based on them to some degree thinking that at whatever level that your performance wasn't where they wanted it to be. So they were kind of doubting you a little bit. And in that moment, you can either accept that, or you can bounce it off and reject it and say, hell no, you know, screw you, I'm going to show you.
And I came right back and I got my funding back. So, exactly. I mean, it goes to show, like, I mean, sometimes it takes others not believing in you to believe in yourself more.
Yeah, to build that resilience, that tenacity. Sometimes, yeah, you know, whether it's in sport or whether it's in life, sometimes I don't know, you know, I'm just thinking about myself where, you know, I've taken my foot off the gas a little bit, and then something has happened. You know, somebody said something, and in that moment, you know, I didn't want to hear it, maybe didn't even quite believe it. But I'm always the type of person who, if somebody says something to me about myself, although I might not like hearing it, I'll then go away and spend some time like dissecting it. You know, well, is what they said, is it true, or is it not? And and if there's some elements of truth, then I go, right, well, there's room for growth here. I've got to start maybe doing something differently, and I've got to crank it up. And by the sounds of it, that's exactly what you did in that moment when, GB Athletics made that call. You decided to use it as fuel for the fire.
Yeah, definitely did.
And I'd imagine that there's athletes that that perhaps weren't able to do that, who maybe have had those moments, whether because it could come from, I guess, somebody cutting your funding, it could come from an injury, couldn't it? And some people think, can I get through the injury? In that moment, there could be that doubt there. Can I get beyond this? Or they can ask themselves, how am I going to grow in this? Or am I going to let this be the end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember that year, it was just a chain of unfortunate events for me. Really? I wasn't having the greatest year in 2017, and I got in a 4-car pileup in Birmingham the day before I was supposed to do the national championships for the World Championships in London. And obviously, concussion and the potential of breaking a bone or, injuring yourself. I was told by the governing body that I shouldn't compete. And
right.
At the time, I don't think I had qualified for the World Championships at that time. And did I want to injure myself? No, I didn't want to injure myself. So I sat out. I got a bye. So I had a chance to qualify again, went to that competition, and I tore my PCL, a ligament in my knee, behind my knee.
Whoa.
And so that was another unfortunate event. So this was maybe a month out from the World Championships. And the IAAF had given me a bye, like a special invitation to compete regardless, because at this time I wasn't selected for the team, which means I wasn't going to championships. And somehow by the grace of God, I was able to come back from that injury and still go to the World Championships. I was off. I didn't make the final by like 1 or 2 centimeters. It was just I guess it just wasn't meant for me to medal at that championship. And like I said, it was a series of unfortunate events, and that caused me to lose my funding, I believe. And so, yeah, so I just had to come back and prove myself the next year, and I did.
And did you say that was 2017?
Yeah.
And then, were you able to pull out jumps that went beyond that one in that World Championships? Did you jump? Were you able to start jumping further that year after that?
Oh yeah. I was at 690, 680 is the year after that. I won won a medal at Commonwealth Games, won a medal at the European Championships, and I was second in the Diamond League, and and I think I may have been third in the world that year. So
whoa.
Yeah. So I was definitely hungry.
It was, just looking at it from the outside in, that's a pretty, harsh, cutthroat call for GB Athletics to make there. Like, if it was pretty much, whether it's that tournament, the competition at the Worlds, or that season, to base the decision just on one season is pretty harsh, would you say?
I don't question the decisions.
Yeah,
they make the decisions. That's how they feel. That's it. It's on me to put in the work and compete for myself. And ever since that, I realized this is cutthroat. So
yeah.
And yeah.
Can I ask? how much mental performance coaching or sports psychology help do you get from Great Britain and, you know, UK athletics? And that, is there something in place that they give to you, or when you spoke about getting the psychology help, is that something that you did on your own, or have GB athletics, you know, is that part of their, you know, their program of what you get when you're, you know, in their system?
They do provide sports psychologists. They do, but I decided to just source a psychologist on my own. I've tried a sports psychologist, and it just didn't work for me. Didn't help at all. And so I decided to go with a psychologist, just a general psychologist, and that helped tremendously. That made a huge change for me.
Great.
And I'm not saying that the therapists that GB have didn't work for me, because I didn't try it. But I mean, I just wanted to venture out on my own and try something on my own. And because I'm just so independent, and it's annoying to me sometimes, but I just wanted to do this on my own.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask, what's most important to you about being an athlete? You know, why do you do it? What are the values that are driving you to do what you do?
Just enjoying it, fun. Like I said before, track training, all of that is a getaway. I mean, when I step on a track, all my worries go away, everything go away. And if I'm around a training group who I enjoy being around, that just makes it a lot better. Like the travel, the lifestyle, you get to compete. It's just a lifestyle for me also. And I mean, the real world, I'm sure, sucks. So,
hey,
you know.
Hey, I've got to live in that real world, God damn it.
Yeah. Thanks to anybody, but I'm sure it sucks. And so, it's a privilege, it's an honor to be a professional athlete. And so, and I enjoy it. There's a passion there. That feeling when you compete and you hear the crowd behind you and you compete well, and you know you get the congratulations, the love. It's all of that. That's what drives me. I enjoy it. I truly enjoy it.
That's amazing. I love asking that question to athletes, because people are driven by different things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Some people are doing it, you know, for their countries. Some people are doing it for their families. Some people are doing it to prove people wrong. Some people are doing it simply for the love of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And from what I see with athletes that I work with and athletes that I don't, you know, work with, I believe that really is one of the keys which brings about their underperformance, i.e., they stop enjoying it. You know, you know, number of, you know, footballers who I've worked with, who, you know, as we all did with sport, we start as children, just we stumble across these random games, don't we? Whether it's hitting a yellow ball with this wooden thing, you know, or kicking a white ball here, or throwing a ball there, or jumping in sand, whatever it is, you know, when you step back and kind of just look at sport in this basic sense, they're just these random activities that we do that gives us a sense of enjoyment, and that's how we're seeing it as children, isn't it? And then, you know, like for me, my main sport was football, but I also was into athletics myself, and cricket and badminton, and I just follow, as I have done my entire life. I follow my passion. I follow what I enjoy doing, and it's, you know, it's taken me where I am now, and I just go with the flow in that way. You know, what brings me the most pleasure? What what do I want to get up each day and do? And for me, the world of sport and the brain and psychology is, I love it. I found something, my first real passion in life was sport, and being a sports performer as a child. And then it got overtaken with the brain and the mind. Once I went down that rabbit hole, I kind of, I didn't properly come back up because it's so fascinating learning about how powerful and how unique it is. And it's a shame when athletes lose their desire to play for lots of different reasons in sport, and they stop enjoying it, and then this thing that they once loved almost becomes like a burden, because they've got these like a war game going on. They used to love this thing and now they don't, yet they still need to be doing it for, sometimes some people who have made it up to high levels need to do it for financial reasons, and they kind of get stuck. And when that enjoyment goes, it can be a challenge to get it back. So keep it, fun in sport is keeping that fun is so important. And because as you will know more than anybody, there are days where training is not fun for you, where the early starts, the sacrifices that you're having to make by not being able to do this or that, and if you're not loving what you're doing, those tougher days, they can then take over, can't they?
Yeah, and it's one of those sports where the risk does not always equal reward. Like you put in so much time, and you have just a few moments to prove how much work you put in, not knowing, the crowd not knowing what you've been through behind the scenes just to be here in this moment. And so, sometimes it's a 50-50 chance. Sometimes you are rewarded, sometimes you're not. And then you're left feeling kind of empty, like, disappointed. Like, now what do I do? So you have to go back to the I'm saying you have to have the passion to be in the sport. You have to enjoy it. It has to feel like fun and not a job, because why else would you continue doing that? Because the disappointment, to me, trumps it's just, I don't know, the disappointment feels so much worse for me than the good moments feel good, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah. So you have to be willing to go through that and through this sport if you want to continue doing it.
Yeah. We are, the way we humans are wired, there's only two things which are driving our behavior: pleasure and pain. And you can use both of them. What people don't want to fall into the trap into doing is constantly using pain to always be the thing that motivates you, because at the end of the day, pain is pain. At some point there's got to be some payoff, there's got to be some pleasure at the end of it. Otherwise, and that's kind of what happens with athletes who fall out of love with their sport in the end, that if there's like that, if there's a percentage of how much sport, what you're getting from sport is driven by pain and how much is by pleasure, if that percentage shifts to too much pain, that's when the will goes, the desire goes. Because if it's just pain, whether it's emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain from injury, whatever it is, that nobody would keep stepping into that arena. And by arena, I don't just mean sports arena. If it's a job, if every day you go to do your job in whatever industry it is, and it's causing you mental, emotional, and physical pain, eventually you're going to not want to go to work anymore. And for all of us, we need to use that, that those slightly darker emotions, that pain, because it can ignite us to take action. It can be the thing that sets us going again. And then in that moment, then you can use that pain to drive you towards pleasure, that disappointment that goes, right, I've had enough. I'm not taking this anymore. I'm not accepting you, GB Athletics. Screw you guys. I'm going to prove you wrong. And in the back, in the forefront of your mind, you're also seeing yourself, right, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to get my funding back, and I'm going to go and medal at this next games. And that, from my side of things, that's how I like to use kind of pain and pleasure to drive myself and drive the people that I work with to go get what they want, rather than get consumed by pain and disappointment.
Yeah.
What is your number one superpower? I believe that we all have superpowers, and athletes certainly, superhero athletes like you who fly through the air, going through crazy distances, definitely have superpowers. And I'm curious as to what you think, what yours is. Is it a skill? Is it a technical part of what you do, or is it a mental trait? Is it a habit that you have? Is it something that you do mentally or emotionally? What would be your number one superpower?
This is a fun question. I like it. Wow, what is my superpower? I would. I don't know. I think my superpower is being able to smile through any situation.
Awesome.
Definitely, because I have this thing where I don't like to show weakness. I'm working through that vulnerability. And so I like to show myself as, okay, happy, and not liking to darken a room, I prefer to be the light in a room. And so I would rather smile and then deal with my own issues on my own when I'm by myself. So I think that's a superpower.
And what a great superpower that is to have, Shara. Definitely. Yeah. Because as we've spoken about a couple of times, we face disappointments, don't we? And with what we've all been going through these last 2 years with everything, when you can learn to smile your way through some of these moments, you know that you've mastered it. You got it. Because if we can't laugh about life, life's going to throw things at us, isn't it? And we're here on this planet. In my opinion, we're not put on this planet just to survive and get by. We're here to thrive. We're here to make the best out of our opportunities, and you're only going to be able to do that if you're enjoying it, if you're laughing along the way and having some fun.
I agree.
What advice would you give to your younger self if you could go back in time and speak to Shara when she was, I don't know, let's say like 50, between 14 and 18, something like that? What advice would you give to that version of yourself, that younger you, based on what you've learned, the wisdom that you've learned in these, in your 30 odd years of life on this planet? What would you go back and say to her that would then help her progress the next kind of however many years?
It's a lot I could tell her, but okay. Let's start with, I think, in whatever you do, enjoy it. Make sure it's something that you enjoy doing and you're having fun doing it, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
It's important. It creates for a healthy lifestyle. I mean, life can be difficult as it is, so you don't want to add difficult traumatic job to that, you know. Whether it's in sports or the medical field or any field, just enjoy. Make sure it's something that you enjoy. Always follow your heart. Your heart never leads you in the wrong direction. Also, always be in control of your dreams and never let society determine whether you should follow that dream or not. Because I've seen a lot of times where someone would have a very unconventional dream or, something that they want to do. And society will say, no, you shouldn't do that because so-and-so, this is what people think, blah, blah, blah. And then you end up unhappy because you weren't able to fulfill that dream. But if you were to apply yourself and work towards achieving that goal or dream, like, you would be successful, you'd be happy. Or you would never leave knowing feeling like, what if I did this? You would always, even if it fails, you would feel comfortable knowing that you actually tried.
That's an amazing answer, Shara. I couldn't agree more with it. Just if we don't be our authentic self, if we live our lives based on what other people think we should do or who you should be and how you should act, I believe that's one of the things that contributes towards people being unhappy. Because which person do you listen to? Because you say you have a circle of friends and there's 10 of them, all 10 people might want you to act and behave in one way, and you could go for advice of 10 different people and they give you 10 different things, and ultimately you have to follow your own heart and your own spirit and your gut and go with it. And obviously this is what you have done, isn't it, Shara? You've followed your passion and you've literally taken off with it and flown. When you look back over your career to this point, and as we said at the start, you've still got a lot of miles left in this tank. You've still got things that you want to prove, still boundaries that you want to break still. But to this point where you are now, how do you feel about it now as to where it is now and what you've achieved so far?
I think I've exceeded my expectations, especially coming into the sport. I didn't expect to be here. Like I told you, I wasn't expecting to become a professional athlete when I started. It was just fun for me. And so, being a global medalist in different championships, like, I have definitely exceeded my expectations. Now, do I want more? Yes, of course I want more, because that's who I am. I'm never happy with what I've done. So I definitely feel I'm capable of jumping further. I think I definitely want to try running a faster time in 100, because my time now is very embarrassing. I should not even be. I should be running fast.
Really?
But we're not gonna say my time right now. But it's embarrassing. But I definitely want to drop my 100-meter time, and I definitely want to jump 720 this year.
You'll do it.
I believe I can.
Last question, Shara. What's your definition or meaning of excellence? What does excellence mean to you?
Excellence. Whew. You're asking the hard questions now.
I like to challenge you, Shara.
You did. You are. Excellence to me is going after whatever you feel that you should go after, regardless of outside opinions, working through the self-defecation, working through the disappointments, being persevering throughout. And I mean, when you do and even when you do succeed, you're humble, you're grateful, and you pay it forward. To me, that's excellent. Excellence, not only achieving, but also helping others along the way. And once you get to that point,
that's amazing, Shara. And I like someone else who was on the podcast recently. A former GB swimmer said the same thing to him. Excellence was about leaving the sport that they was in a better place than what it was than when they came into it. They moved it forward in some way. They paid it back, rather than just kind of coming into the sport and taking from it. And I certainly wouldn't be where I am today if without growing up without sports heroes and idols, these people that I saw, these athletes like you who I saw on TV, in the 1990 World Cup and the 1992 Olympics, like Linford Christie and, Daley Thompson and Sally Gunnell and Colin Jackson. I grew up watching those folks, and I saw them, and they inspired me to, take up sports myself. And, I think it's, fantastic that, that's there within you as well, that you feel that you want to inspire, a generation. And I'm sure you really are flying, the flag for Anguilla as well, and trying to inspire the people from your home country to perhaps even get off that island and go and see some of the world like you have. And
yeah, that's one thing about doing this sport, and it being broadcasted throughout the world. I get to inspire people. Especially from back home, I get to show people like it is possible, not even just in sport, because we have, musicians, we have politicians, we have beauty pageants, we have football players, we have cricket players, we have so much talent on the island. Cyclists have so much talent. And not just me, they also can show, young Anguillians, and not even just young Anguillians, more seasoned Anguillians. We can show them that it is possible to fulfill your dreams. And if you have to leave the island, you can do so. We did. And now I also try to give back and help how I can and mentor and, do clinics. And I try my best to give back when I can. And it's all part of the game. This is what I signed up for. So I do it not only because I have to, but because I want to. I want them to get a taste of what it is to live this lifestyle, to be out there performing, carrying the flag and achieving, and, I want them to get a taste of it.
Yes.
So
that's fantastic, Shara. And I hope, people from Britain and from your home island, Anguilla, hope some, there are people out there watching and listening to this, and listening to your story and your message, and it helps ignite that flame within them to go and dare to even strive to do even half the things that you've done. And there will be people listening that will be massively impacted by by what they've seen you do on TV, and even the amazing, words of wisdom that you've been able to pass on this show, and because that's what this Inner Game podcast is all about. It's about just trying to delve inside the world of elite athletes like you and former elite athletes to give advice to up and coming athletes and people who have gone through some of the struggles that perhaps you've gone through, the cutting of funding, or they've been released by a club or whatever, and just having been able to look up to somebody like you who kind of experienced that disappointment at a key stage in your career as well, right in the middle of it really, and you just wasn't accepting no, you used it as fuel. And I'd just like to finish the podcast by just saying thank you so much to coming on and giving up your time with me. Really appreciate it, and I've loved every second of it, Shara.
No problem. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about these things. I enjoyed talking all things mental health. I enjoyed talking about my career, and telling stories of events that people don't know about. I guess I'm a private person. I guess not really. I don't know, but yeah, I just enjoy talking and hearing different perspectives, because I learn a lot from you also. I will look into the hypnosis thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm very open to that. So yeah, I will take a look and browse Google to see what it is all about.
Do it, definitely. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, Shara. So, again, thank you so much for coming onto the Inner Game podcast. And I'm really excited to see you on TV in the up and coming athletics season, and see you jumping beyond your limits, going beyond 720. We'll be screaming through the TV for you, Shara. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
The Inner Game podcast, brought to you by the Science of Excellence. Unleash your power. Book your free consultation now.